Very good evening to you and welcome to the West Midlands Football Podcast. I'm Ben Ellis, and you might have noticed that it's a little bit different this week. It's just me. And it's one of those things. It's circumstances beyond our control. This is where we would normally react to the weekend's action. We're streaming on Facebook, on YouTube and on Twitter as well. We welcome your views. You'll be able to post those on our various platforms, and we're just going to have a bit of a review now between you and me on how our teams have got on this weekend. So I don't think we're going to be here for the full hour. I don't think I can inflict that on any of us right now. But it is just myself, and we're going to start in the Championship, and we're going to work our way up to the Premier League. So Birmingham City got a very creditable 2-2 draw at Stoke on Saturday. Jordan James and Gary Gardner with the goals for Blues. They opened the scoring and they came from behind to snatch the point. A lot of comments that we've seen from Blues fans is that they're very, very happy with that result, considering the fact they have no centre-backs at the moment at Birmingham City. There's a lot of injuries tossing up for Lee Bowyer's men, but 16 points clear of the relegation zone with about a third of the season to go. So barring disasters, it's going to be a very nice, comfortable end to the season for Blues fans. And let's hope as well that in all possibility that parts of the ground can remain open as well throughout the remainder of the season and get more fans into St Andrews, and they can start enjoying what they're seeing from their team. And it's going great at the moment, isn't it? Lee Bowyer's reinvigorated the team, and he's got the spirit into it. The signings, they've had a really good January transfer window, have Birmingham City for sure. And the new signings have come in. They've done really well. It was nice to see Jordan James getting his first goal as well. Just freshened it up at the point where it was going a bit sort of stale, and where Blues fans have seen it go quite regularly down the years and heading towards the almost abyss that was the end of the season. That's not going to happen this year. So Blues fans, enjoy yourselves for the rest of the campaign. I don't think the same can be said for West Bromwich Albion fans right now. 2-0 defeats at Luton on Saturday. By all accounts, played well in large parts of the game, and then it kind of went wrong for them. They went a goal behind, and Steve Bruce was very quick to come out after the game and lambast the reaction that he didn't get from the players. Now, the question that I've got to ask, and if Jonathan was with us here tonight, our resident baggy, I would be asking the question, and Albion fans, that you can leave your comments as well on the various platforms that we've got here. The players. You've got to look at the players in this squad, particularly the ones that have been around for far too long. You look at the list of managers that West Bromwich Albion have been through. So Slaven Bilic and Sam Allardyce and now Valerian Ismail and Steve Bruce is here now. It's always the same thing. It's the same thing. The players are just phoning it in because they're too comfortable. Give you the example. Of course, he didn't play because of his suspension, but Jake Livermore, one of the players that Albion fans said they don't want to see anywhere near the team again. It's quite clear that he's not the only one because it's just too comfortable. I heard one local broadcaster say that there are players in the Albion squad that are stealing a living. I'm finding that difficult to argue with, to be quite honest. So the question is, they've almost got to show championship winning form if they're going to make the playoffs now. It's not impossible. There's always a team that goes on a run in the latter part of the season. We think back to 2 or 3 years ago where Villa went on the 10-game winning streak to get into the playoffs and eventually go up into the Premier League. You can't see that happening with West Brom at the moment, though, can you? It's difficult to see where the next point is coming from or the next goal is coming from. And they get to Middlesbrough on Tuesday night, of course, with a very difficult looking fixture. Middlesbrough will be looking to bounce back from their defeat on Saturday, but Chris Wilder's a wily veteran of the Championship, just like Steve Bruce is. And if I could put a message out to the Albion players, like they're paying any attention to me, of course, but if we could put a message out to some of those Albion players that we're accusing of phoning it in at the moment, well, bear in mind, you're going to have a good contingent of Albion fans who are going to give up their free time on a Tuesday night to go all the way up to Middlesbrough to cheer you on. I think you owe them a performance at Middlesbrough on Tuesday night for sure. So, the West Midlands Football Podcast with me, Ben Ellis. I think it's going to be the shortest one in history because literally all we're doing for about 10 minutes or so is reacting to the action that we've seen at the weekend. Circumstances beyond our control. A lot of the lads, they have lives, quite simply, and they weren't able to join us. We could have moved it to Monday, but telling you a bit of my story, which you're probably not interested in, but I'm having a tooth out tomorrow, so I'm going to be a bit sort of groggy and worse for the wear. Having said that, I felt a bit groggy and worse for wear coming out of Villa Park yesterday, where Aston Villa went down to a 1-0 defeat at home to Watford. And I left the ground sort of shaking my head, really, based on what I'd seen, accompanied to what we'd seen the previous week at Newcastle. If you remember, we talked on the show last week about a nothing performance that Villa turned in at St James's Park, and Steven Gerrard was quick to come out and lambast the players and say that we were nowhere near the level that I expect, and there will be changes for next week's game against Watford. I get to Villa Park just before 2:00. I get handed the team sheet, and there's only one change. Watkins out, Ings in. The other 10 players are the 10 players that started at St James's Park. So you've got to ask the question, did he just come out and say it to try and get a reaction from those players it was clear who he was talking about, who weren't putting the performance in at Newcastle, that there were going to be wholesale changes? Did he see a reaction from them in training at Bodymoor Heath during the week to say, yeah, okay, you convinced me, I'll give you another go on Saturday. I feel I've got to change it up front, but yeah, Douglas Luiz, John McGinn, yeah, the likes of you, I'll give you another go. Well, if that is what happened, then they really let him down. They really let him down on Saturday, because it was, if anything, it was worse than the game against Newcastle, because they had 20 efforts on goal, Villa, on Saturday against Watford. Only one of them was on target, and that was a weak shot from Emi Buendia. And the longer it went on, you saw the confidence growing in Watford, and all they had to be was disciplined and organised in a very Roy Hodgson way. And they snatched the 3 points. Emmanuel Dennis getting the goal to win the game, a low header on the counter-attack, but Villa just didn't do anything really. They huffed and puffed and couldn't really make anything happen. The big moment in the game was in the first half. The only decent bit of football that Villa played ended with Buendia putting Danny Ings through one-on-one with the keeper. He had time to take a touch. Ben Foster, the Watford keeper, out to meet him. He gets the ball and he hits the outside of the post and goes out for a corner from about 8 yards out. You'd have put your house on Danny Ings scoring. So, had that gone in, it could have been a different game. But generally, it's not looking good. If there was a honeymoon period for Steven Gerrard, then that very much has bit the dust now, because he's lost more games than he's won since taking over at Aston Villa. And they go to Brighton next Saturday. Brighton had a very shock performance and defeat against Burnley, losing 3-0 at home to the bottom club in the Premier League on Saturday. So their confidence might be shaken, because they've lost 2 on the bounce now, having lost to Man United as well. So is there an opportunity for Villa to go there on Saturday, put Brighton under even more pressure, and try and get the season back on track? Because 27 points, 9 points clear of the bottom 3, generally speaking, you'd say they're okay, but they don't want this to continue. They don't want this malaise to turn into a real rut, because Dean Smith lost his job, losing 5 on the bounce. I don't think that's going to happen to Steven Gerrard anytime soon, but the owners and the supporters and the manager, which is what we've been told, are very ambitious. They want to move forward. And if the players are showing that they are not up to it, there will be wholesale changes at Villa Park this summer. So it's up to the ones who are there, that core that we talked about on the show last week. They've got to prove to Steven Gerrard that they are going to be in his plans, that they want to remain at this football club for next season. And that starts at Brighton next Saturday. So in this truncated edition of the West Midlands Football Podcast with just myself reviewing all of the action. Like we said, we welcome your views as well on the various platforms. You can leave your thoughts and your message, Facebook, Twitter, and, of course, YouTube. We're going to end with the good news from the weekend. Wolverhampton Wanderers, earlier today, 2-1 victory at home against Leicester City. Second best for large parts, but they find a way. Do Wolves under Bruno Lage, that is for sure. Ruben Neves and Daniel Podence with the goals that gave the Molyneux men all 3 points. Lovely goal from Podence to seal the deal. One of those ones where a kind of goal that I love, really. The ball comes across the player and then he drills it low with his right foot into the bottom corner. Excellent stuff from Bruno Lage and Wolves. They don't concede many. They're starting to score a few now. We said they didn't score many, which meant they're kind of like almost a draw specialist, but now they're starting to score some goals. The level of consistency with the defence is still there, and the teams above them, okay, Man United back-to-back wins, having won that game against Leeds today and Brighton in midweek, but Leicester dropping points, but then you've got Leicester, I should say, West Ham dropping points, but the wins for Arsenal against Brentford, and that amazing win for Tottenham at Manchester City. So Wolves needed that victory today, having been the last of that team that are going for European football, to remain in touch, because there was a danger that they could have got left behind. But I tell you what, Wolves, magnificent job from Bruno Lage and that core of players, because it's not the biggest squad in the world at Wolves, and over 2 transfer windows, Bruno Lage has been complaining that he hasn't yet got the players that he wants into the squad. So you have to wonder, Wolves fans, once he gets what he wants, depending on where Wolves have finished, is the sky the limit? Because it's looking really, really positive for Wolverhampton Wanderers right now. So that was it. That was, like we said, our truncated roundup of the weekend's action. The Box to Box podcast will be here in midweek, looking at the national picture, and you can follow that on the Birmingham TV Facebook page. And hopefully we will be back to normal next Sunday to review another big weekend of action. But for now, from me, Ben Ellis, and all the team here, keep following the football at your local TV stations. The West Midlands Football Podcast. We'll see you next week.